Election Day is November 5th, and we're sitting down with Norwalk's candidates for Common Council and Board of Education, and we're asking them for their qualifications, their opinions, and their visions for Norwalk.
I have always been interested in social causes and always interested in public education also. So I've decided to run for the board because I think something needs to be done about the achievement gap and overall student achievement in Norwalk. I think it's not something I'm faulting Norwalk. I think it's an issue with, on a national scale. But I think people seem to accept or assume that, specifically blacks and Hispanic kids and kids from socioeconomic disadvantaged background tend to believe they can't perform. And it's sort of, they accept this as a norm and seem to be operating in containing the problem as opposed to trying to fix it. Now, I look at myself, I raised 2 kids in Norwalk, and my kids did very well in the public school system. I think I saw this, I look back and say, was this my experiment to show that, I know kids of color can perform well. Now I thought I could make a difference and volunteered in the school system. And I had a different experience. When I volunteered, I saw some of the challenges that the teachers face, where kids would, some didn't have the preparedness to start in school. Clearly things like preschool can help with that. But then a lot of these kids didn't do their homeworks. They went home, they stayed up all night watching video, doing something else. And so they came to school and they weren't prepared because they didn't do the work. And then in school, they were half asleep. I was in the classroom and I realized, this is a problem. So all it meant is that they kept falling further and further behind. So I've looked at this and thought, I need to do something. I think prodded by my kids to my daughter. My kids are both in careers with really making social contribution. My wife is a teacher here in Norwalk. And my daughter often pushes me, and whenever I speak about something, she said, well, why don't you do something about it? So I figured, let me get into this and do something about it.
You said you volunteered in the school system?
Yeah.
In what capacity was that?
Yeah, I was a mentor with a student from 3rd grade to the 11th grade.
Oh, okay.
Here in the Norwalk public school system. I was a tutor, math tutor for a student in middle school. I was a chaperone of the Norwalk marching band. I also worked with a program in New York City. I worked in New York City, and I worked with a program called Exploring, New York Exploring, and we got students from the public school system and introduced them to business IT opportunities. And I actually hired about 15 kids and had them work for me in my organization during the summertime. So I had a lot of experience where, with kids from a wide range of background and understanding that if given a chance and given guidance and holding them accountable, that they would perform. I have a wide range of things I'd like to focus on. I think some are issues around process and policies, and I think it's important to do those because I believe those things need to be addressed for me to be effective in getting change done. And I think one of the first things is really getting the board to establish a decision-making process. I go to the board meetings today, and as in many institutions or organizations, there's a lot of discussions, but you can't tell what drives the decision. So they seem to make a lot of decisions around opinions. They have a whole lot of discussions, and then they sort of agree on something, but it's not based on as an example in the board. I believe that decisions are made without looking at the impact of the educational achievement of the kids. So even the discussions around the budget that occurred a couple of years ago, there are people that came up and gave a lot of opinions and a lot of strong points. But when the decision is made, the focus was, hey, we need to cut this money. And there's no discussion of, okay, well, if we need to cut this, and we're going to select, we're going to reduce librarians, we're going to reduce teaching assistants. No discussion of, okay, if you do that, what kind of impact does that have on education? Sure. So I think I'd like to implement a management by facts type process, get the board to agree that this is how we're going to work. So there will always be an analysis when there's a discussion on curriculum, on the budgets, etc. There will be a discussion around the impact on the educational achievement. The other thing I'd like to do is to get the board to set clear community goals and objectives. I think the way the board works is kind of strange. I really believe that the board should be given the superintendent goals and objectives, and then let the superintendent define the initiatives and define how he's going to go about it. You sit and you also agree on the metrics that you use to measure his success in getting those things done. And so those are sort of the process type items and policy. I think I would also like to get, on specific actions. I think the board needs to have a strategy to deal with the achievement gap. I think there's a desire, and people's hearts are probably there, that's saying we need to change this, but there's no action being done to change it. And like anything else, if you continue doing things the same way, the results aren't going to change. I believe there's an urgent need for a community strategy to deal with the achievement gap. And when I say a community strategy, I think it's not just the teachers. I think we are relying on the teachers, or relying on the teachers and the parents. And the fact is the students that are not performing often don't have the parental guidance, or the parents don't have the knowledge or understanding of what they need to do. So I think you need to get a community strategy in which you're going to involve the parents, the different religious institutions, the community centers, community groups, and volunteers. There are a lot of seniors, retired folks, and people that are willing to contribute more. Hear different people tell me about the challenges their kids face because of learning disabilities or special needs. And I think one of the things that Norwalk needs to do is to charter the superintendent to look at how we are servicing the community, the people with special needs, and the students that have, and I meant students when I'm saying people, students who have special needs and learning disability, and have the superintendent come up with a strategy, have him develop a strategy of how we should service those needs in an effective manner. I think it would be unfair to him. He comes in, and I've been into new leadership position. You come in and you sort of, that's not high on your radar. You're doing the other things that you've heard others say. And 2, 3 years later, this becomes an issue. And all you've been doing is following the process of others. So I think we should have him take a look at how we are servicing those needs. I've heard even from teachers. The teachers are concerned that in many cases they're being guided with doing things a certain way. They know we need to do something. We need to do more. Part of what I have done when I decided to run for the office is to do some research. I've gone online, read up on Common Core. My wife is a teacher, so I hear from my wife directly and from all the teachers in the circle. As far as the noise about Common Core, I fully support Common Core and implementation. On a large scale, I think it's good to have a national or international standard on education. This country doesn't have a national educational policy, right? And it's good that each state runs their own education as opposed to something being dictated nationally. But I think having something like Common Core, where there's a standard that everyone agree on, these are the things that's supposed to be taught. I think that's good. I think it's an honorable thing. I think, on the other hand, hearing from the teachers and others, I think we have to be, support the community and make sure that we're not over testing, that the issue around testing does not become the priority, that there's a focus on learning. It's interesting when I've read different things on the Common Core. The one thing that I have read, though, is that at least the standard and the folks running the standard say that the issue around content is important. It's not on testing, that they have all these provisions. I think maybe it's the training and everything to make sure everyone understands what's available and how it should be done. But I think, so the one caution I would say from the board standpoint, and I'm saying we as someone who expect to win, that we would make sure that we don't, that we manage the process to make sure that the emphasis is not on the testing and that it's more on the children learning or the students learning. I think that the implementation has not been effective. I look at it from a preparedness standpoint. It's interesting that the school has, 1 day of training for the teachers. It's like the school system starts, and the first day of school, they give the teachers 1 day of training for the program. So it's something that they're going to implement. I think that we need to change it if we really believe in the initiatives that we're implementing, such as Common Core. We have to establish a system that sort of parallels what's done in major organizations. The private industry, when they're implementing a program, and I would put this an analogy of private industries, many have implemented programs called like Six Sigma or lean manufacturing. And when they do something like this, people normally go for like 5 days of training. And you have a support system with online training or on-site, online support or on-site support to help you through that process. Here, it's a 1 day and the teachers are going along. Even right now, they're just still getting like their follow-up training. Sure. And people may think, that's great, look, we're putting the money, but I believe you need to have a clear strategy of how you're going to implement any program, define the transition. I think I could contribute a lot there.